I have work in an hour. Let's go.
Kids grade their homework I've ever seen comes from Devon, an AI
I want to go back to
software
sleep.
engineer.
Let's
Get the
go.
joke. Don't name your machine Devon. It's not a very cool computer.
But I can't,
As a
so I'm
side note, why do
up.
all
Let's
ethically
go.
challenged software engineers
I've been up
always
since
call
fucking
their machines
2.
something
Let's
stupid
go.
or, like, literally Skynet with no in between? On the surface, Devon appears to make a large percentage of lower and mid-level coding tasks trivial, and in turn making a significant amount of jobs obsolete. Unfortunately, code is graded by how functional it is, not how cool you were making it. Otherwise, I would have a different career path. Full credit to Internet of Bugs for this information. I don't have the bandwidth
Where's my
in my
point
life to
5?
fully learn how
Here
to
it
code
is.
enough to do this myself, and you know, his video was extremely interesting, and I got all of it from there, so watch it if you want. To simplify, in this video, Devon is shown doing something very specific from a very specific source, being this Git repo. And somehow, it still finds a way to lie. It reports multiple errors in separate parts of the code and then fixes them for your convenience, except those files do not exist in the repo, and Devon just made them up with the bad code and then fixed it. It also ignored extremely obvious instructions written in plain text.
I don't think the person that wrote this repository, detecting road damage, I don't think the person that wrote that could have made it any easier to understand how we were supposed to use it, but Devon didn't seem to be able to figure that out.
And then potentially took way too long to complete the task. And I should point out, this is not a problem with Devon, it is a problem with almost all text-generating AI. Currently, their existence requires them to engage in behavior that makes them hallucinate because they are incapable of knowing the difference. It is still something that holds them back from being genuinely useful because despite their ads, you cannot trust their answers and you won't listen to them. But somehow, there are zealots that want to entrust every corner of the computing world to a monkey on a typewriter that hallucinates. This is also a problem with the glut of underbaked products like the Humane AI Pin, which seems to be named as a way to trick me to trust it. Nice try, buddy, but that's a machine. Nothing gets past these old peoples. This received significant press coverage because it is objectively an absolutely extremely cool product, which is a shame because it doesn't exist and no one really ever got it. Simply like tapping your chest and pointing at something, saying what, or how much, or obliterate him, is like an extremely cool thing to do. It's just kind of sucked at doing that. Just having something see what you see adds an insane level of real-time context that is so cool, but it lies a lot and really slowly. Breaking it down quickly, in their promotional video, it calculates the protein in a handful of almonds incorrectly. It states the next time an eclipse will be visible in a specific location, which was not correct. And apparently, it purchased something without giving...
No, this is not Eminem.
All the while taking several agonizingly quiet seconds to accomplish. Mind you, they actually seem to have re-uploaded this video with vague answers to make it more correct, but still not entirely right. Most marketing tools have situations where the product's more effective than it generally is, and there was a question as to why the Humane Pin didn't receive that treatment until, you know, it was released. They were doing that. The product is worse. They got easily verifiable information completely
I'm not suited for motherhood.
You can Google, and yet it took longer to do so.
Very mean.
The laser display is pretty cool, but limited because of a physics thing that I'll pretend I don't know, so the big kids at school won't bully me. I'm like a sparrow. I'm more frail and small. The only thing that could possibly help me is subscribing, liking the video. Subscribe. This all assumes that it has service because it doesn't pair to your phone. It actually requires its own SIM card for service.
No, it's not The Rock. I don't know who this is. If you recognize her from this photo, that means I'm doing great. But I have no idea who this is.
But I feel like it's fairly applicable to all of the revolutionary implementations of AI, being that at some point it
no, this is not fucking me.
Easier, quicker, and better to do things yourself. Put a pin in that statement, it's going to come back. It took longer for the Humane Pin to say that this was a Cybertruck than just using Google Lens, which does the exact same thing, partly assisted with an AI. This is the same for another AI assistant that requires specific hardware, does not pair with your phone, heralded by some as the future, was rushed to market to beat a competitor, and doesn't work well enough not to question why this isn't just an ad. Which, hilariously, it actually kind of is. The Rabbit R1 is a device that you're forced to buy to interact with their model. It's essentially just a bad phone. Dave2D compiled a list of things he would want to change about the device, and it basically just turns the thing into a second phone, except you can't do anything that the phone can. Despite being an AI assistant, in the words of Marquez, it can't record videos, can't record photos, can't send emails, there's no calendar.
I'm gonna ignore you now.
Which really does make it like an orange box with fun little toggles and a camera that gets things wrong. The simple fact is, currently, giving an AI too much agency creates so much friction in doing basic tasks. Using it to correct grammar in your story? It's a pretty good use case. Using it to write the story is a complete disaster. They strike me as the first almost grifts in the AI space, as the Rabbit R1 app being run on a phone proved that there
that's concerning.
isn't really a good reason to require buying the machinery other than the fact it is more beneficial to the people selling it, and the humane pin is $600 odd US. Why? Don't get me wrong, the Rabbit R1 is only about $200 US with no subscription, and both of these products work, unlike the rounded to a nearest whole number 100% of cryptocurrency, but it's a trend I don't think anyone wants to see continue. Finally, we have AI image generation, and I'm not calling it art. Now, I've never actually interacted with image generation, mostly because it's completely pointless for 99% of people on the planet, but I decided for the video it's probably worth taking a look at seriously, with my serious goggles, just to find limitations, and wow, that was quick. This perhaps makes me one of the more educated personalities that have spoken against AI image generation and its place in pop culture, which is, in my mind, qualifying enough to say that it has, in some ways, been unjustly demonized by people that do not understand it. But it should still be burned, because there is so much more that you don't know. My God, keep in mind that for the rest of the video, no matter what I say, no matter what you think I mean,
dude, you're just saying wild shit.
Decides to storm the streets in protest, my torch will have been extinguished and relit 1,000 times over. Image generation is another form of AI that gets constantly hyped up by insufferable people that spend 30 minutes on Midjourney and were convinced that, yeah, this thing will individually find every artist on the planet and just put them in jail. In reality, it is surprisingly challenging to get images that are consistent, let alone consistently legible, not to mention something that actually looks like you intended, or really an image that has a reason to exist. The amount of tweets I've seen from people who like using the word FUD say, wow, this is amazing, and it's getting better every day. This is going to replace traditional art any day now.
The fuck is my gold?
One of the biggest issues that is still plaguing things that Stable Diffusion is trying to fix is that it can't make hands. Like, it can't do hands. The thing that is on people. While digging through the pages, I know I'm on a break, I found a lot of more preconceived challenges.
Here it is. There is something kind of poetic about that, though.
That there was a world where it could be used ethically, rewardingly, for everyone. It's just not the one we're living in, and it literally never will be. I say this mostly seriously. We need to start designing a void prison for AI image generation, like now. Like this instant, start now. In its rawest form, there is truly nothing wrong with it. You can make models based off real life, or your own creation, something that doesn't just blatantly infringe copyright, and build it for your own specific needs. Think of it like a lead deposit. Alone in the world, a deposit of lead has no intention or existence on a moral spectrum. There are many ways you can use lead poorly. Paint or pipes are good examples of this, but there are use cases where lead is nichely applicable and ethically good. It just so happens that the people that found this lead, really like this lead, decided to shave it off and sprinkle it into cereal. Not because they have grand plans, they just don't like people. Like, what do you... Why? Not all AI generation is stealing. There are considerable efforts by some to detach its usage from them. And there is, however, so many more people specifically trying to steal art and styles. There are people who interact with this technology solely for the purpose of committing copyright theft. I cannot stress that enough. Even if you take away the inherent stealing of using other people's art, scraping it from the internet to train a model, there are people out there specifically trying to copy specific artists' styles for their own benefit. There's glimmers of goodness, like the fact that images retain their workflows so you can import them and see the settings. People are generally open to sharing tips, and then people use those tips to create deepfakes or just spread misinformation by faking history. But it's just poison. They're just poisoning you. Even if none of the models used Solana or scraped anything, which would beat the all AI image generation using Neuralink claim, even then, there are people that specifically use it to steal people's art, to fake history, to deepfake things, to make people say what they did. It is such a powerful bad tool, it probably needs to be illegal. Basically, don't die on this hill, go die on that hill. All your friends are there, there's a castle, it's defendable, it's a way better hill. So yes, while some people will say that not all
Why do you keep asking the same
is
question?
stealing, and they are technically correct. Wow, what a brave stance. Oh my god, how people use this stuff is so much worse and so much more intentional. Oh my god, burn this to the ground, please. Perhaps what sticks out to me most while sitting in this kind of area is finding out how how not interested anyone is in actually making art. The bar for entry, while confusing, is not exactly very creative. It can quickly expand into a Lovecraftian spreadsheet while you're not looking. There's thousands of different ways to influence the image created, each with their own little toggles, and they name things like B-box detector and mask hint crop in 25,000 different nodes that aren't compatible with each other, and if you choose the wrong one, it just explodes. But the majority of advocates don't want to do this. They don't want to learn to do all this weird dorky stuff. They don't want to use custom tools or train their own models on their artwork. They don't want to go out of their way to try and avoid accidentally stealing someone's work. They just want to put the words in and have something nice come out of it. The very profile of the people that use this is perhaps the biggest reason as to why I don't think any of this is worth saving. Generating images doesn't exactly work the way you would think. You very much describe very literally what is in the final image. If you want the image to have a sword parting out of frame, you need to describe exactly what parts are in the frame, and that's it. Even then, it's less describing and more explaining something to somebody else who then does it instead of you. There's always a level of distance between you and the output. It never feels like a control machine, or like you carve escape routes until it goes the way that you want it to. It's a process where true, genuine artistic expression, getting what you dream of onto a page, can only be done at the highest level of use. I can create all these inputs and reference images to get exactly what I want, the field of view, exactly the way the shadows fall, the color of the iris, the sparkling, the lens flares, but like you could just let the machine do it for you and then it doesn't matter. This inherently attracts a demographic of people who do not have much experience with art. They don't understand the ethics of it, and they believe that art is just something that looks good. This is most apparent in its simplest form with community-developed laws. It's like a plugin that's specifically trained to allow characters or styles to be implemented into the image at a smaller file size we don't have time, that are specifically made to replicate things that are trivially easy to do with traditional photo manipulation. There are several laws that attempt to recreate comic paneling, manga pages, or text boxes, even though AI images struggle with creating comprehensively written text and lack the ability to maintain consistent styles across two images, let alone have the artistic ability to convey a story. What you choose to have in those panels, or how big they are, and where the text sits, is still a human part of the process, and one that is extremely easy to do by just manually compiling different images. It is faster, more efficient, a better example of your actual artistic intention, all the while looking better than just getting the machine to do it, and yet that's what people do because they don't have any artistic intention. It speaks to a lack of care or lack of ability to conceptualize a way to consistently and comprehensively relay a story with personalized flair. Probably both. Imagine looking at a Garfield strip and lacking the ability to figure out, or the lack of desire to actually physically make the thing. Mind you, you have all three images, but putting them in a row is too much for you. And not everyone in the community is like that. Many implement the tools for incredibly interesting ways. Upscaling, photo restoration, game development, Normal mapping and video pre-production are all things that image generation effectively and ethically benefits. It's just that the easiest thing to do with it, and what everyone wants the machine to do, is intentionally steal art. The more I look into it, the more I feel like it's just the Iron Giant, but the humans and the giant want the giant to be the big guy that blows stuff up. If image generation somehow gets outlawed, I'll shed a single tear for the loss of what could have been and technology developed, and then feel the overpowering warmth from the inner hearth that comes from the knowledge that the world is absolutely a better place. It's pretty depressing as well, because AI images are one of the more refined avenues of artificial intelligence, so it could be interpreted as a precursor to an AI future, and it's just led all the way down. And lastly, as an appendix, there are face replacement and voice cloning technologies, which are very cool and have no use cases that I like. It's always either ghoulish, like replacing someone with a deceased actor, or getting random celebrities to voice your TikTok trivia page. Not exactly company I intend to keep. And that's it for this video. My legs hurt from standing for so long. I'm so brave. I'm a big boy.
I need to sharpen my pencil.
It was something to do with the overall tone of the series and the mother of morality in Lower Olympus world. Especially after watching Husband Hotel yesterday, that I got finally hooked into, I realized that there is a huge problem with a consistent tone of the whole story in Lower Olympus. It kind of raised the questions about how the setting affects the morality of the story. I've been thinking about it a lot yesterday, and I found a comment that perfectly encapsulates that issue, and here it is. The issue with Lower Olympus's morality is that it tries to put the characters into situations of absurdism that would be generally acceptable or otherwise considered trivial in a setting about all-powerful Greek gods, by also trying to grandstand and make a point about those same moral problems. I'm not going to read the whole comment because it's quite long, so if you want to give it a read, just post the video.
17
I
minutes.
wanted to read another excerpt.
I'm about to stop once I get this done.
Lower Olympus is trying to be both and failing horribly. It's trying to have an absurd, outside human perception of morality stuff while also trying to put the gods on the same level as humans with their interpersonal issues. It's just not working, and it creates a lot of double standards in the narrative. It also makes characters like Persephone look really stupid and irresponsible. It creates all sorts of these tonally dissonant problems in the narrative. It just goes to show how hard Rachel's trying to pay lip service to the very real issues while having her cake and eating it too of the over-the-top god contexts. So what are those double standards that the comment speaks about? And that bothered me so much. To answer this question, we first need to go back to the original mythology. In original myths, gods were pretty much human. They had very human-like personalities, but also they were quite depraved humans, if that. They did a lot of really horrible stuff that mortals wouldn't get away with. They also quite often give in to the lowest impulses of humans. They're cheating, they're jealous, they're violent, they're nasty for no reason, they're very petty. There are a lot of situations where gods turn on mortals for stupidest reasons, such as Psyche being named as a person who is prettier than Aphrodite, and that causes her an outburst, and the whole Eros and Psyche situation happens. So when we were first introduced to the gods in Lower Olympus, they were pretty much aligned with the original counterparts. There were a few minor changes, but generally the spirit of these characters was kind of preserved. The quirks of the gods were kind of translated in a way that it still made them faithful to their originals. When we were first introduced to the relationship of Zeus and Hera, we learned that he's a massive cheater. He instigates many affairs. In the mythology, Hera was cheated on by Zeus a lot of times under different forms and different obscure circumstances. that would be worth to make another video of, because some of these are so ridiculous. But anyway, it was kind of like a toxic relationship that we see at the beginning of the Lord Olympus story. He likes to have affairs with mortals and nymphs and whatever walks, you know. Hera's mother, yikes. Anyways, he is pretty much portrayed like his original counterpart was. He is an unfaithful husband. And Hera is this kind of a vicious type of, you know, vengeful woman in the original mythology quite often punishes mistresses of Zeus in horrible ways for having an affair with her husband. Anyways, she is also portrayed just as in the mythology as a scorned woman who is very angry at him for his infidelity. She is very jealous of these women, especially when it comes to his affair with what's her name?
Mental?
You know who I mean, oh my god. Minfei's friend. Oh my god, Thetis, of course. Thetis.
Who?
Thetis. Anyways.
Oh, I know
Sorry.
who that is.
So he has an affair with Hera, and Hera is pretty much, you know, she is scorned. She is angry at him for that. When we are first introduced to Aphrodite, we see that she is very petty, she is obsessed with her beauty, she is treating a passive comment about
Alright, I'm done.
being less pretty than Persephone as the biggest insult that kind of pushes her to arrange this weird